Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sonnet, the owner and creator behind Sonnet's Garden Blooms. And in today's video, you guys are getting a thrift to treasure. So I recently thrifted some of these items. I've also picked a couple out of my stash and we are flipping them in today's video. And I cannot wait to hear what you guys think.
For project one, I thrifted this picture a while ago, guys, and it has been sitting in my stash, but what caught my eye was the little blue hats on these rowers. And today when I pulled it out, I'm like, I know exactly what color I'm going to use. Blue Iris from DIY. Now, everything that I'm using in today's video, all the products you can find out on my website at www.sonnetsgardenblooms.com. So it looks like I paid $3.99 for this. I thought it was a really good deal. The picture was really awesome looking. So for starters, what I'm doing is I'm going to pull out the picture and take out the glass. It makes painting the frame so much easier. Sometimes I leave everything in if I cannot get the picture out, but this worked perfect. Plus, I also thought I should really do something with the picture itself. At first I thought, should I paint it? Like paint the edges? And then I came up with the idea of creating my own mat. To start with, what I'm going to do is paint the frame. Now, if you haven't used DIY paint before, it is heavily pigmented, and as you can see, the coverage is amazing. So I am only going in with one coat of paint on the frame. I do want the frame to appear a little bit distressed and worn. So what I'm going to do is just, like I said, apply one even coat, then go back and wet distress it. But the paint goes on just perfect, and I absolutely love how vivid this color is. Next, I'm going to create my own mat. And because I have been working through my stash of supplies, like many of you, I love buying different supplies and I tend to buy them and forget about them. And one thing that I used to do is scrapbook. So I have a ton of paper. I used to make cards, create scrapbooks, and I thought, what a perfect opportunity to use up some of that scrap paper. So I found two pieces, and that was one thing. When I used to buy a lot of paper, I always bought 2 to 3 pieces of paper, because if you're creating something and you run out, the chances of finding that same paper were slim to none again. So I had these 2 pieces, and what I did is I measured out how big I wanted to make my mat. And this is the thing. Normally a mat is cut from one piece of paper. Well, paper is 12 by 12 and the picture is just a little bit bigger than that. So I thought this paper was perfect because there's a pattern on it. You're not going to see as easily where the lines match up or meet up, the 2 papers meet up. So this actually worked out perfect. So for starters, I trim down my paper and then I figure out where I want to cut my mat, and I line it up and I find I want to completely cover that white edge. So I make a mark on both of the areas where I want to cut. The nice thing about my cutting tool, I did pick this up at Walmart a while ago, is you can line it up exactly where you have your lines. Push your blade right in that beginning line and then cut to the next line. I hope that makes sense, because as you're gonna see, I use this is one of my favorite rulers, you guys, and if you don't have one, it helps you line everything up. It's actually meant for making quilts, but you can see through it, you can line it all up, it's perfect. So once I get this all lined up, then I'm gonna draw a straight line like I said, and then cut it. Now that I have that piece all cut out, I'm going to just now finagle that little portion that I still need. So I measured what I needed, cut that chunk out, or cut that chunk off, I should say, and then cut out where that picture is going to be. And it really was super easy. And if you look at the picture, you don't notice it unless you're really looking for it. I had to really look to see where those two pieces of paper butted up, because the pattern on there is very random. It's writing, and it kind of reminded me of Kindest Regards, so I really liked it. After I completely get this cut, I then flip both pieces over. I take Scotch tape and I tape them together. I then flip it back over, line it up exactly where I want it, and then I take two-sided tape and I place it in place. I think having that two-sided tape is really what you want to do, just in case something shifts inside the frame. It holds that mat in place. Now that I have the mat all set, I'm going to wet distress the frame, and I know you probably have seen me do this before. Super easy, gives you better control because it's DIY paint. It's very easily wet distressed, and what I don't want a lot of that original frame to pop through, just randomly here and there, just a little bit of wear and tear. So I randomly go over the entire frame, just distress it, let this dry, and then we're going to come back and seal it. I'm using Big Top to completely seal this, and I apply just one even coat over the entire piece. I'm going to let it dry then thoroughly, and then we're going to put this all back together. Here it is, guys, completely put back together. What a transformation, and I can't wait to hear what you guys think about this one. For project 2, I picked these up at the Goodwill Bins, and what really caught my eye was that they just looked old and vintage. I don't even know if they actually are, and I love the red and white. I was not too happy that the black handles were missing, but we can clean these up. So I am taking a scraper and I am scraping off all the excess. It was like worn and like kind of like dried out and hard, and with this little scraper it came off super easy. And once I get this all cleaned up, I just think these are going to be perfect in a vignette for spring and summer. These just scream summer to me for some reason. Next, I'm breaking out Fusion's Coal Black. This is a one-step paint, so the DIY paint, you do need to seal it. With Fusion, the sealer is built right in. So I am applying just one even coat of the Fusion to both of the handles. Before I do that though, I do want to have a really nice, crisp, clean line, and I'm using blue painter's tape, and I'm going to apply that, and then, like I said, just apply one even coat to both handles. And just this little bit of paint completely transforms the look and feel of these. And again, I don't think I'll put a lot on them, but I just think this is going to be a really nice added addition to a vignette for the summer. Now I need to ask you guys, would you have picked these up at the Goodwill Bins, or would you have left them behind? Do you think that they would be a nice added addition or good for resale? I am always trying different items. Who knows what's going to sell or what somebody will want in their home decor is how I look at it. So I can't wait to hear in the comments what you guys think. Project 3. I recently thrifted this at the Goodwill Bins, and I only wanted it for the frame. My initial vision here was I was going to paint over that outdated picture. I noticed that this was on the back, and typically what this means is that Goodwill has it on their website and they were trying to auction it off. What I did is I used Google Lens, and I did find the artist out on Google, and it looks like he has quite a few paintings. Here is one that's similarly matched and what it was going for, and I know that that's not what it possibly sold for, but because of that, I decided to pull this out of the frame, set it aside, and just put it in my booth as is. I had a bunch of canvases in my stash. I pulled one out, and we're going to start with that blank canvas. At the bins, I grabbed a bunch of this music paper, and I'm just grabbing a sheet out of there. We're going to decoupage it down onto the canvas, and then we're going to start creating. I have the paper cut down to size, and I grabbed liquid patina. This has definitely been my go-to decoupage medium for all my Upcycled papers. Now this paper is a bit heavy, so I was wondering if it would hold up, and it worked perfect. I'm starting with a starter strip, and I do this to give a better control over all my decoupage papers, and then I work my way down. I'm going to let this dry very thoroughly, and we're going to move on to the next step. Let's paint this frame. Let's use Fusion's French Eggshell. This has definitely been one of my go-to colors, and I love this paintbrush as well. It gets into all the details. So these paintbrushes work great with Fusion, and then the other DIY paintbrushes work really great with DIY paint. And I am just painting one even coat over the entire frame. I let it dry, and then I did notice that there were just a few areas where it needed to be touched up, and then I went back and touched it up. So very similar to DIY paint, this is very heavily pigmented as well, so it has amazing coverage. While the frame is drying, we're going to start working on the actual image. And this is called Baby Animals. It's a Upcycled decoupage paper. I've used this in multiple projects recently, and I love it. So it was from last year's release, and we're going to use these two little chicks. There's a couple ways you can do this. You can cut it out with a scissors, or you can use a wet paintbrush and just trace along the actual image and then just pull. And it really gives, I like this technique because it almost leaves a little bit of fibers, so it's really natural looking. And I did this on a live, and people said they were holding their breath. They thought I was going to tear the actual image. But honestly, you guys, where it's wet, that's where it tears. It doesn't tear the image at all, so this is such an easy process. If there are any areas where you need to just kind of touch up, just add a little bit of water, and then again, just peel back or, kind of tear off that paper. And the next step is I am going to add beadboard from DIY Paint to the back side of this image. So typically I do recommend always starting with a white base, and many of you said that you don't have to do that, and that is absolutely correct. But if you want your image to completely pop, or if you're applying like these chicks to that music paper, you don't want that music paper to kind of peep through. So by painting the back side, this is going to alleviate that. I let it dry, and now it's ready to go. So I'm lining it up where I want it, and my vision here is we're going to add some wording or something above those chicks. I kept going back and forth. Do I put it in the center, or do I put it on the bottom and add something? So I finally decided to add a tag on the very top, and we're going to use liquid patina to apply these chickens. I finally decided on a tag, guys. It took me a bit. I kept going back and forth on what I wanted. And I thought this would look really cute, just a tag with some ribbon hanging. So I'm using French eggshell and applying just one even coat of the French eggshell, letting it dry, and then I'm going to show you what we're going to do with the tag. I thought about going through all my stamps and trying to find one that said like Happy Spring or Happy Easter. I decided I was going to hand write it, and I always get nervous because so many of you have the most beautiful writing, and I didn't want cursive, so I just hand lettered Happy Easter and then went back in and added a little bit of detail here and there. And I think it turned out pretty good. Sometimes you just need that, like handcrafted look to your item. Next, I'm going to use some velvet ribbon that I had picked up over the holidays. Initially, I went through one time and it was just too bulky how I had it. So I untied it, I squeezed the two ends together, fed those through the hole, and then looped it. And I really like the look of this. And I kind of like did a kitty corner cut on each of the ends. And then now I'm taking my favorite go-to glue, Type Bond, adding a little bit of Type Bond to the back of it, position it, and there you have it. I really love how this turned out. I think it's super cute. And as I'm looking at it now, maybe I should have added a little bit of dark wax to the frame. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Project 4, I recently thrifted this basket at the Goodwill Bins. I was so excited to have found it because I love that vintage look to it. I was sad that the handle was broke. And many of you had said, don't get rid of the handles because I was going to cut them off. And after looking, I really liked the look of that metal on the ends. So I decided to try to fix this. On another basket I had thrifted, somebody did fix a handle by doing this. So, well, I don't know if it was this exact technique, but I think it was probably pretty close. So I'm using Type Bond initially here. I'm rubbing it on very, very thoroughly, and I am pushing these back together. And it's kind of nice. Where it broke, it was a really good area to break because it wasn't on a complete bend. And so I lined this up, like I said, and I'm going to hold it in place. I'm going to wipe away the excess glue, and then I'm going to take my blue painter's tape and I'm going to hold it in place as it dries with the blue painter's tape. This is step 1. And then I go back after this dries for... I let it dry for like 2 hours. And then I have this clear Gorilla Glue, and I'm going to show that to you next. And after this dries, I pull the tape back, and then I put just one piece of tape on the back side, and I start with the front side first, and I apply the Gorilla Glue to the front, and I let that set up. And then I pull the tape, the blue painter's tape, off the back side, and then I let it set up, or I apply it to the back side, and I let it set up there. I let it dry overnight, and it is so strong, you guys. So these are the two pieces, or these are the two items, Type Bond and Gorilla Glue to fix the handle. Now, it is a bit shiny, so now I'm going to camouflage the shimmer or the shine of that Gorilla Glue and try to hide the break a bit. I still want it to look really distressed though, because I don't want to do anything to this basket because I love the vintage look and feel of it. So I am using weathered wood from DIY Paint, and I'm going to apply just one coat of weathered wood to both handles. So I let it dry, but because I want it to look old and distressed and I don't want it to look like I fixed this, I'm going in with a damp rag and I'm really going to distress the heck out of these handles to make them look just as old and worn as the basket. And in the end, you guys, I think this was a really good fix. I'm glad that I listened to all of you and I salvaged the handles. Many of you had suggested that I wrap it with twine, and I could possibly have done that, but I think this is a really good fix. And you guys, you can't even tell where that was, but when I wet distressed it, I tried to stay away from that area where the break was. I'm going to let this dry. I'm going to seal it with Big Top. And then this was such a simple, easy fix. It did take roughly 24 hours to dry, but honestly, it was good that I was able to salvage this from the Goodwill bins and still keep some of the authentic look of the basket and keep those handles on there. So in the comments, you guys, what do you think? Was it a good fix or not? For Project 5, I recently took this out for a live. I went into my stash, I was pulling items out. There was a board that fit perfectly and I was going to do something on a live with it. It has been sitting in my studio here and I'm like, it's time to get rid of it and let's get going and upcycle it. For this project, I was inspired by a previous Thrift to Treasure video that I recently did. And it is the Thrift to Treasure video where I took two pictures that I had thrifted and I used the hymnal paper on those as well. I also used the Millets pages. It's an IOD transfer and I put butterflies on there. So I thought, what a perfect opportunity to do something similar but different. So I'm using the hymnal papers again, and I love tearing the edges. It just makes placing them together that much easier. And I'm going to place them and then I'm going to decoupage them on this board. Now that I have it all placed, I'm using liquid patina again, and I am doing the starter strip, working my way down, and just working in each section of this piece to completely decoupage all four pieces of the hymnal paper down. And the key here, guys, if you are going to apply anything to the hymnal paper after you do that, or after you decoupage, you want it to be completely dry. While that's drying, here is the Millets pages, an IOD transfer that I just talked about. On a previous live, I had used the sheet that's all full of eggs. So Millets pages is just jam-packed full of all these amazing transfers. And here is what I did on a live with a portion of the eggs. I want to use up the rest of them. So what I decided to do is just randomly put eggs all over this image. And at first I was going to do something similar to the butterflies. I was going to start with the largest on bottom and kind of work my way up. But then I decided, no, I'm going to put the largest in the middle and then start placing the medium ones all over. And it kind of was a work in progress. After I got the medium ones placed, you guys, I was a little bit like, oh, did I go wrong? Should I have really placed everything before I just started, going all in? But in the end, I think it turned out great. If you haven't used an IOD transfer before, don't be scared. It's super easy. Keep in mind a couple things. You don't have to use the transfer sheet as is. You can cut the transfers apart and use them however you want. That was my mistake the very first time I used it. I thought I just had to lay the whole sheet down and use as is. Very quickly, I realized you can cut apart transfers, you can layer them, you can use transfers from one transfer book with another, create a custom look just however you want. So that is the first thing. The second thing is you just pull off that backer sheet on the bottom, lay it down wherever you want it, and then you use your transfer stick and just start rubbing. If a little bit of the transfer doesn't stick, lay it right back down and rub again, and it will be perfectly fine. After you get the whole transfer down, just rub it, and that's called burnishing, and it really gets that image embedded in whatever project you're working on. And then just go to town and place them however you want to really create a custom look. Now, this is when I started applying the medium ones, and I just kind of randomly thought I'd put them around it. After I get to this point, though, you guys, this is when I got a little nervous. And then I'm like, okay, I'm just going all in. I'm going to just start placing the smaller ones just randomly here and there. And in the end, like I said, I really love the way this all turned out. And let me know in the comments what you guys think. Should I have added something else? I also thought it would be kind of cute to have with tiny little letters on the very bottom, maybe just a little tag that said like eggs or something like that. Otherwise, I think this looks pretty cool as well. The very last thing is when you use transfers, you do want to seal them. I'm using Big Top, and I'm just applying one even coat of Big Top to the entire piece, and that will completely seal that transfer in place and protect it. I've inspired you guys to grab some junk or items that are being discarded and completely transform them. Just a little paint, a little creativity, and you can completely transform a piece. So I hope that I've inspired you to try something new today. I also want to apologize for my videos not being put out right when I normally, my scheduled time. When I say my scheduled time, but honestly, for April is going to be 3 years that I've had my channel, and I always try to get them out by 5 o'clock. I have been having internet issues, and so I apologize. I have been working on this for over 2 months. I first tried to work with the company, my internet provider, and they just could not fix the problem. They do not know what's causing the problem. All this time I've been using them and uploading videos, not a problem. Within the last couple months, though, it has been progressively getting worse. So now I'm in the process of switching providers, which, because it's winter here in Wisconsin and the provider that I'm switching to is an underground line provider, there's been issues with that. So needless to say, fingers crossed, it should be happening this week. I started uploading this video much quicker, faster, sooner for you guys. I still don't know if it's going to be uploaded in time because that's how slow things have been. But I just wanted to apologize and thank you guys for always watching. I love ya. Now, the last thing I wanted to address were my lives. So yes, I do go live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
I've increased my lives to 2 hours. I get so much more done. I have been hearing comments that the lives are not for you, that you like these videos. Do not worry, do not fret. You're still gonna get these videos. They will be coming out every Monday and Friday, just like they always do. The lives are just an added addition, guys. So if you don't like them, you don't have to watch them. I know some people have said like there's a lot of chitty chat going on. That's kind of what lives are for. I like to interact with my viewers, and but yes, I try to keep the whole thing going as well, because I get it too. You're watching live, you don't want me to just stand around and talk, but I do have to read some comments and then continue to, you know, do whatever project I'm working on as well. So I thank you all for watching those as well. And if you haven't joined me yet, definitely head on over to one of my lives. I go live on Mondays at 6 and then Wednesdays and Fridays at 10 a.m. So 6 p.m. on Mondays, 10 a.m. on Wednesdays and Fridays. Well, you guys have yourselves a great weekend, and we'll see you Monday. Bye.